News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm John Tucker.
Well, John, futures may be falling, but stocks around the world have recovered their losses from last month's Rose Garden tariff announcement from President Trump. That's after the U.S. and China agreed to roll back triple-digit tariffs against each other for 90 days. In White House remarks heard on Bloomberg Radio, the president called it a total reset of the U.S.-China relationship.
We're not looking to hurt China. China was being hurt very badly. They were closing up factories. They were having a lot of unrest. And they were very happy to be able to do something with us.
But President Trump did not mention that the deal met nearly all of China's demands, including suspension of the so-called reciprocal tariff rate of 34% and a point person for further talks. Still, Caroline Freund, non-resident senior fellow at the Peterson Institute, says both sides had good reason to de-escalate.
I think they both did. It was really unsustainable for both countries for different reasons. It was unsustainable for the U.S. because there's a lot of things we need from China, and it was unsustainable for China because they need to manufacture things and sell them, and the U.S. is a huge market.
That's Caroline Freund of the Peterson Institute, and China may have made at least one concession to the U.S. Sources tell Bloomberg News China has lifted a month-long ban on its airlines taking deliveries of Boeing planes.
Yeah, Nathan, of course, investors were cheering the U.S.-China trade agreement. The S&P 500 surging 3.25%, while the NASDAQ again rallied 4.33%. Some Wall Street titans also applauding the easing of the tensions. We caught up with Citadel founder Ken Griffin.
To see the U.S. Secretary of Treasury come to a meeting of the minds with the Chinese leadership was an important moment between our two nations. And I'd like to take this not as a moment in time or reflect upon the fragility of what's been accomplished, but rather to focus on the fact that we have opened the doors to a negotiation. And I do believe that the actions of both parties makes it clear that we want to find common ground.
Citadel founder Ken Griffin making the comments in an interview with Bloomberg's Shanali Bassick for an episode of the upcoming series Bullish for Bloomberg Originals at the Four Seasons in Miami.
Well, John, President Donald Trump is in Saudi Arabia now, starting a 4-day tour of the Middle East. He was personally greeted by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The president's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is also in the kingdom at a Saudi-U.S. investment forum in Riyadh. Bessent talked about the chances of a trade agreement with the European Union.
Europe may have a collective action problem, that the Italians want something that's different than the French, but I'm sure at the end of the day, we will reach a satisfactory conclusion.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent added the U.S. has had very productive discussions with Japan. He praised conversations with Indonesia, and he says there is a, quote, very good proposal from Taiwan.
And the easing of global trade tensions, that has one Wall Street firm boosting its price target for U.S. stocks. Let's get that story this morning from Bloomberg's Gina Cervetti.
Goldman Sachs Group says the Buy America trade may be back. The firm now sees the S&P 500 index reaching 6,500 in the next 12 months. That's 300 points higher than its previous estimate and a gain of about 11% from yesterday's close. Goldman had cut its S&P 500 forecasts twice in March, citing higher recession risk and tariff-related uncertainty. The firm says while such concerns have eased with the latest truce between the U.S. and China, the broader earnings outlook still remains uneven. In New York, Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
Gina, thank you. As investors remain focused on the latest trade developments, they'll also have a key economic report to digest later this morning with the Consumer Price Index for April. Let's get a preview from Bloomberg's Michael McKee.
This is the first inflation report that may offer evidence that Trump's import taxes are raising prices. The consensus is for a fairly strong increase in headline and core prices, even as gasoline fell in April. Autos and some consumer goods may move higher, although the biggest increases won't come until May or June. Economists will still be watching the traditional inflation sources as well, particularly housing, to see if non-Trump inflation is making progress towards the Fed's 2% target. Michael McKee, Bloomberg Radio.
That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
I'm John Tucker, and this is Bloomberg.